Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host, Wolf, again, and I am joined by.
HC again.
And we're here to cover what's that? More RWBY. How? That's right, it's the RWBY Justice League movie that everyone
Because
wanted.
that everyone, I guess this honestly, okay, before we get into this, I guess because people apparently don't really know that Warner Brothers owns Rooster Teeth. And for the record, I didn't know until you told me last week.
Yeah,
So
they've
yeah,
owned them for
so
quite
this
some
is
time.
so this is what happens when a certain company figures out it holds IPs which are popular. They just decide to throw them together, and I am all for that. Sometimes I am all for crossovers. So, but before we
I
talk
agree.
about this, hmm, what do you want to say?
No, I said I agree with you. I'm all for crossovers.
Yeah. So, but before we actually talk about the movie itself, for Ruby, you can catch all of our reviews that we've done. But Wolf, what are your opinions on the Justice League? Like, just in general, IP.
I've seen some stuff here or there. Like I remember I've seen like I guess Teen Titans is a part of DC universe. It's not Justice League per se, but some of the characters you see here do come
Cyborg is
from.
kind of,
Yeah,
jumping from there to there.
yeah.
So there's
Like you get Cyborg from there. I've seen the old Justice League show.
the
Um
the cartoon, like the
yeah,
DC animated universe. Yeah.
yeah, that one. I've seen that one. I've seen like Young Justice as well. And I've seen some other DC stuff here. Like we covered the DC movie a while back, and I've seen some other DC
We
stuff.
did, yeah, we did Justice League, the Just Whedon version versus the Snyder Cut. Yeah, we did
Hmm,
that.
hmm.
But for me, I would say that in terms of the Justice League, just when I say Justice League, I don't mean just them together, but just as DC, that side of DC in
Yeah.
general. I would call myself a casual fan because I love the animated shows, right? Like, Superman the animated series, Batman the animated series, Batman Beyond especially is really good. The old Teen
Hmm,
Titans, I really like those shows. I even own both Batman shows on Blu-ray. Really proud of that.
hmm.
Um, but in terms of other stuff, like I like some of the okay, I like some of the older DC movies, not necessarily the ones post Man of Steel. Not that I hate all of them, but most of them are meh. And honestly, I stopped caring after a certain point. Like after Justice League came out, I think I've seen the Wonder Woman sequel because it was a pandemic and my mother begged me, and I've seen the James Gunn Suicide Squad, which was great. But everything else, I am kind of avoiding for because I'm sick of that. And so I would consider myself a casual fan, but I did see some of the animated DC movies which came out throughout the years, like Batman versus Robin was really good. There was Death of Superman Part One and Two, which was really good. They have the animated DC stuff usually hits.
Yeah, I think compared to you, I'm less of a casual fan. I've partaken. I'm aware of some of the things and like some of the broader scopes of characters and the
And
popular
also,
memes, I suppose. But that's
I
it.
guess I can mention I guess I can mention also the Batman Arkham games. I'm a fan of those.
Yeah, I've played one or two.
Mhm.
See, I think you
So
have more experience with the DC side of things, and I have more experience with the RWBY side of things. So worlds
yeah,
collide. What did we think?
actually, this is actually turning
Well,
out
actually,
really bad.
before we
This
start,
turns out,
I
yeah.
want to
Okay, so
say
before,
from the
yeah.
RWBY perspective, right? The
Mhm.
fandom, I would say the general consensus from the fandom when this was announced was, why though? That was pretty much it. Like the entire fandom was pretty much, we get it, but why though? Like,
Like I also kind of get it because I get it. They have both IPs, so why not
Yeah,
kind
no,
of this
we
kind of
get
thing.
it. I get
Uh,
it. I think most people
but
got it.
also,
It
I'll
just
tell you
felt
what.
like, did anyone want it? Was anyone asking for it?
To be honest, I'm gonna bring this up as a point of contention later, but nobody really wanted, no, thought it would be possible to have a Batman and Ninja Turtles crossover, and then turned out freaking amazing.
True,
So,
fair, very true.
but
I
the thing that weirds me out
I
though is
will
that
say for
Mhm.
RWBY, right? They did the comics first. They did the RWBY X Justice League
I
comics. They
was
released
just getting
comics,
to it. I was just
and
getting to it. I just want to say that me and my girlfriend were on a vacation in Singapore, and there was this bookshop which had an entire comic section, and suddenly I saw it there. I saw the comic there, and I thought I got it as a gift for my friend. I didn't read it for myself. All I remember is that when I gave it to my friend, there was a printing error in the middle of the book where they kind of printed a few half pages in the middle for some reason. It was probably a printing error, but I have no idea what else is in there. And suddenly, oh, there's a movie now.
yeah,
Okay.
there's been a few comics that they've released, and they're releasing like another set that, like, the first set was more the Justice League characters in the world of Remnant, and the
Yeah.
new set they're
And
releasing now is the RWBY characters in the world of the Justice League, right? I think like the
yeah,
newest one is
which
like
is
Team RWBY
uh,
in Gotham, essentially, and
yeah,
Batman.
and also you can probably see this in the thumbnail. This is part one. There is a
Well, no,
sequel
I'm talking
coming.
about the comics, right? The
Yeah.
comics specifically is what I'm talking about, not
Well, but
the movie. Because the
oh,
movie, as far as I'm aware, it's based on the comics, but it's a different, more or less different story. It's not at all the
I
same.
was I was gonna ask
As
because
far as I'm aware,
I didn't really get to read the comic myself when I got it for my friend, but I have no idea how loyal this is. But I assume now that you said that part one, part two, maybe there is more of a connection.
I've not fully read all of them. I've skimmed through. I have them. I mean, I'm a RWBY fan. Why wouldn't I at least pick some of them up? I have them, so,
Mhm.
but I've not fully sat down to read any of them. I've just kind of skimmed through a little bit. And from what I see, like, the comics they were okay, leaning a bit more towards meh personally, but overall fine. You know, there are better comics out
So
there. There's worse comics out there. But I would
so
say, from
shall
what
we
I
jump
could say,
into?
the movie, it takes a little bit, but it's pretty much different story. I would say the movie.
So no spoilers yet. I am sorry to say, when people say bad fan fiction about something, this is the example that I think they talk about. This was uninspired, not boring, but and it's not the worst thing in the world, but also like there was so much bullshit in this,
See,
and
I'm
it's
gonna
like
go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I just want to say this literally felt like we have these two IPs, and Justice League makes money, RWBY makes money. Let's put it together. Don't think about everything else. Just throw this shit in there, and there you go. We have this. I was so disappointed, honestly.
I wasn't. I came into this with zero expectations, and I'm walking away feeling like, you know what? That was good. I had fun with that. I enjoyed
I
that.
am. I'm glad you did, buddy.
I can't
But
complain.
oh, boy, I have complaints.
I mean,
I
like, don't get me wrong, right? There are things in it that I would say are, this wasn't great, but like, for the most part, I think there's, there was some stuff here that, I walked away from. It's like, I didn't expect to get that from this movie. I'm kind of glad I did, and that was fun. And you know what? Cool. All right.
I
And I mean,
think
maybe some
I
of it comes
will probably have
from,
more discussions when we go over this, but I guess it's just maybe it's like a love it or hate it thing, but a lot of it just didn't work for me at all, and we'll talk about this later. But before this, just a question:
hmm
since you are more the RWBY guy, like you
hmm
are coming into this for as a bigger RWBY fan than a Justice League fan, what did you think about the idea that it's the RWBY animation, it's the RWBY team doing this?
I I thought it was okay. Like, sorry. I think if there's any one complaint, a lot of that there's something that I think I don't know if this is confirmed fully, but I've heard like some things here or there and made sure some stuff, and I think it's legitimate, but don't quote me, right? But I think
Mhm.
because they were making part one and part two of the Justice League X RWBY movie, that took away from Volume 9. And specifically, Volume 9 was supposed to get like an extra episode or two, and these movies took away from that. In that regard, it sucks, but because like that should never happen. Side spin-off things should never take away from your main content ever. And if
That,
it does, bad. Do better.
mhm.
But
Yes.
speaking to what do I feel about this being in the RWBY animation, I think it's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'm aware, very aware that Warner Brothers' own animation team for their DC stuff is amazing and can do some amazing stuff. And I would be interested in seeing RWBY within a different design because we got that with Ice Queendom, which was very
Mhm.
fun because
Yeah.
Ice Queendom, like, if you've not seen it or if you don't remember, it was beautiful 2D animation, right? Like that was gorgeous to look at. I loved that. But,
Mhm.
you know, like I would have enjoyed seeing it in a different style, but I'm fine with it being in the style of RWBY. I think that's okay. I think it's a good style and it works. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong
I
with
would
it.
say I have no problem with the animation style being the Ruby one. Again, what you said, it shouldn't take away from from the main thing and stuff. I totally agree. But
I think
the movie looks great. The movie looks fine. My thing is that since it's that style and it's only that style, and we've never seen the Justice League characters in this style, and they do redesign them, which we'll get to. I feel like they lean a bit too much into this being a Ruby movie than a Justice League movie. And I know in crossovers sometimes one side gets sometimes one side gets more than the other, but this felt like it felt too much like their focus was more in favor of Ruby. And who knows, maybe the second part is gonna change that, and in that case, fair enough. But as this is what all we have now, and the second part might come out in maybe a year. So as it
we
is,
don't
it
know.
felt like
We just
we
know
don't
it's
know.
like it's been in production for quite some time already. It's probably fairly far along, but we don't know too much
The
about
the
where
point
or
of
anything.
the point of the matter is, however, we need to wait and answer at the time of this recording.
Hmm.
We need to wait an unannounced amount of time until we maybe get to see the other side of it. And if we and let's assume we don't get it, then it's just it's kind of it leans more into the Ruby side than the Justice League side, which necessarily a bad thing, but it's also, if people imagine people are coming into this because it's the Justice League and they don't know much about Ruby,
Hmm.
then I feel like some audiences are gonna get alienated, and that is a problem.
I I guess I see it, but I don't know. It would be hard to if you're not a fan of Ruby. I think it would be hard to recommend. It's like, oh, you're a fan of Justice League, you should watch this movie. You'd love it. I don't think you would. I do agree. I think there's some stuff that for the Justice League, there's not a lot. There's not a lot going on here. Like I would say,
and
the
and I will
character that
say
has the
without
most is Jessica Cruz, followed by Wonder Woman, and then
and that's the thing that I say again, the reason I think it's lazy and honestly not well thought out is because if this is a crossover movie, I want both sides to shine. And like you said, I can maybe recommend this to the Ruby fans because yay, more Ruby. But Justice League fans, there's no way in hell I can recommend this because unless they really want to say how bad they mess up the characters. That's the
I
only thing.
again I come back to I don't think they mess up. I will say I feel you know they do this thing of like, oh, the Justice League are essentially teenagers now, right? And you can see it on the image we're using for the background of the podcast. So I'm not spoiling anything, right? You've
Yeah,
already
but
seen it. It's the poster image. They
it's
look
also
different. They
it's
look
the
younger.
literally the Blu-ray cover. Like if you
Yes.
buy this, there's you see
So
this.
with that out of the way, like the Justice League are supposed to be younger and they're supposed to be like, oh, they're teenagers. It's all the emotions and the hormones and the angst, blah. And I would say for Wonder Woman, it's they do something a little interesting there for like her issues. For Jessica Cruz, there's a lot
Do
of
you
good
want
stuff
to
there.
just go into spoilers at this point?
I mean, yeah, I guess we can. Yeah,
Okay.
spoilers.
So for the record, though, Wolf really enjoyed this. I didn't. I think my main takeaway from this is if you love Ruby, you might get some kick out of this. But if you're a fan of Justice League, this is one you can skip.
I think, yeah, yeah, I would say if you're a huge fan of RWBY, you'll definitely enjoy this. If you're a fan of Justice League, I think you might get some enjoyment out of this. I think there's some stuff here for you. If you're a fan of both, I think you're walking away happy. Personally, maybe I'm wrong, but I think you'd be walking away fairly decently happy if you enjoy both. Personally,
Well, so spoilers in three, two, one. Still here? Okay. So you were start because you were basically starting to talk about the idea that the Justice League are transformed into teenagers here, and this does play into the plot of the movie,
yeah,
which
and like they play around
I
with like, oh, they're
oh,
supposed to be hampered by the emotions and all the things they've repressed as adults, right? Or just forgotten about. And it's like, some of it works, some of it doesn't. I feel Batman, right? His is probably the weakest.
Batman
Where
is so weird and so
like the fact
awful.
that Batman is like, I have powers now. I'm one of you guys now. I'm cool now. It feels like that's a little bit of a weak reasoning to have him like, questioning himself, I feel. Like that
No,
was the
and
only one I
also
felt
like
like that's kind of meh.
and like also because there's this point where he tells Diana, Wonder Woman, he's like, in this world I have powers, I can make a difference, I can, help more. It's like, bitch, you beat all of the Justice League's asses with just your gadgets. What the fuck are you talking about? That's not Batman.
Yeah,
That's not.
I would say for like his supposedly, Bruce's or Batman's, like oh, what's the word? His fuck his problem. I'm with for lack of a better word right at the top of my head, right? His problem within this movie is that, and it comes in fairly quickly and it gets over fairly quickly, and it's kind of just it doesn't fit his character. Diana, Wonder Woman, her stuff, I think like her, like, oh, I'm a warrior. I've trained since birth, for life or death situations. Like that was my entire life. And her relating to Blake and Yank because they've also done that, right? It's been life
Mhm.
or death their entire lives with the Grim and everything. You can
Yeah.
see the relation there. That's good, I feel. That works. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a little quick, but it's fine. You only got it's a literally just a 1 hour
Yeah,
movie.
like
Not a lot of time here.
there are some like you said with Diana and Black
Jessica
and the
Cruz.
Yang, but there's also like Superman and Ruby. They have some of the talks about being a leader, and
Yeah, and
some of
like
it is a
age
bit
doesn't matter for a leader, right? It's about, how
yeah,
good you are and heart, and you're like, yay, let's go.
yeah, like
Superman being
and
the Boy
it's
Scout. I get it.
also yeah, and it's like
That's good.
it
And
works with
Jessica
his character.
Cruz, like, I think Jessica Cruz and John stole the show, especially Jessica Cruz. I think that
By the
just
way, I
stole the
had to
show.
ask. I had to ask, and also thanks to my girlfriend for confirming that Jessica Cruz is an actual Green Lantern character. I had no idea.
Yeah, she's like the new Green Lantern, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, if
From
you're
what I
wondering, the
understood,
RWBY fandom has completely adopted Jessica Cruz at this point. Like
which
they
honestly,
found the
it did
little
feel
green.
all
She's
the
just
time that she's.
go ahead.
That's the
Sorry.
thing. It felt more like she was a Ruby character than a
I
Justice League.
I get it. Like they've adopted her. The RWBY fandom has adopted her because of that. She is, the RWBY fandom's little green bean now, apparently. And yes, if you're wondering, there is a ship name for Jean and Jessica Cruz already. And
Yes, of
yes,
course.
in RWBY fashion, I can't fucking believe it, but it's also very good. Fucking Nightlight. Fuck me, how do they do this every single fucking time?
I don't know, but
It's almost always
they
consistently
put
good
more
ship
thought.
names.
But I can tell you one thing: they put more thought into this than the writers did. This entire movie, boom, did it. Anyway, I just want to say
I
nothing.
disagree.
Well, you can disagree. I'm just stating my side of it.
I mean, you're wrong, just saying.
Well, I'm saying you're wrong. I went to college for film, motherfucker. I'm correct. Okay, jokes aside. Jokes aside. Anyway, where was I with this? Okay, I just want to say I like Jessica Cruz's Green Lantern. I again never heard of the character before. I'm sure she
She's
existed. I'm sure
new.
she's great. Just never exposed to her before this.
Mm-hmm.
But her inclusion does bring up something I was thinking of, and it could have fixed something.
Mm-hmm.
If you can bring people if you can like bring other versions of the characters, like because the original Green Lantern is Hal Jordan, right?
I think
So if you
like Jessica Jones is like the Green Lantern now, right? Or Jessica
Jessica
Jones, Jessica
Jessica Jones is
Cruz.
Marvel.
I know. Shush. Leave me alone. I had an old man moment. All right. I'm old. I'm allowed one or two.
Okay.
Jessica Cruz is like the Green Lantern now. I don't think it's like an other version. It's just she is the Green Lantern and the main
What I
Green
mean,
Lantern now.
though, she's a successor. She's not the original person to take the mantle when the comic started.
Oh,
That's what I mean.
that's fair. Okay.
So in that case, why, if you're going to write Bruce Wayne to be so different than any other version, why not? Why not have another version, a guy in the bat suit? You could have Dick Grayson take up the mantle. Yeah, you can have Terry McGinnis make it a Batman Beyond thing.
Because that's not
I.
Batman though.
It is.
That's
It
not
is.
Bruce
Jessica Cruz.
Wayne though. That's not like
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if you can play. That's what I'm saying. If you can play it up with the idea that we can use the later versions of the character, then you could have done this with Batman.
I'm not a comics person, but I think the comics don't consider Jessica Cruz like a later version of Green Lantern. She just is Green Lantern. I think like the idea is we're in this universe of the comics specifically, and Hal Jordan. Oh, sorry, hit the mic. Hal Jordan does not exist. Is essentially like that's how comics work. I don't fucking know.
If that's the reason, I'm sorry. It's a stupid reason. If you can have other people who took up the mantle, then you know what? No, I think it could have been a different Batman. How many Robins are there? There are tons of Robins in the DC
Nobody likes
universe.
Robin.
Some people do be surprised, but I don't think it really matters in this case, considering how many reversions and how many versions exist of these
I mean,
characters.
this is the
You
problem
could
with
have chosen
comics, though,
someone else.
right? In general, I feel. But at the same
It
time,
is. It is. I'm not. But I just think if you put it in within yourself to have another Green Lantern there, and you're going to write Batman so different that he's almost unrecognizable as Bruce Wayne, why not have another person in there?
there were moments I felt like, yeah, that's Batman. But for the most part, I do agree. Like, Batman is absolutely the weakest link here. It does not work for him. Like, character wise, like, his dilemma, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, let's go with dilemma. Yes.
His dilemma and just, how quickly he gets over it. He's the weakest one here. And it's a shame because he has probably one of the cooler designs out of the cast from the Justice League.
I disagree. I don't like this design.
I
It's
like
so
it.
ridiculous.
I thought it was fun. I thought it was clever. I would say Jessica Cruz's design is the best, like hands down. She's
I
top
also
best
like
design.
I have a love-hate relationship with Superman's design, honestly.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. It's like it's okay, but it just doesn't work. I don't like it. It just
Like
it
I like
it's
I'll tell you what, I kind of like the golden ass. I like how the cape is red on the inside but blue on the outside.
mhm.
I like that. Yeah. Oh, but then like what? The cape is connected to like what? A jacket?
Yeah, it's weird. It's like It's okay. You're not the worst, but you're not good design. It's like it works, I guess. It's serviceable, but but
I
like
guess go ham. I guess go ham for wearing his undies the right way.
I guess. I don't know. But like I think personally for me it would be Jessica Cruz is the best design. I think they did the best with her. Then I would say Wonder Woman had a good design.
Yeah,
I like
agreed.
between her and Batman would be number 2 for me. Like I would go Jessica Cruz, Wonder Woman, Batman, then Vixen,
Again didn't really
then
care for
Cyborg, then
Batman's
Superman.
design. I I think the Flash got a good redesign.
Yeah, he
I
was all right.
guess.
I would say he's
Question:
probably above Cyborg and
I
Superman.
never heard of. I don't remember hearing of Vixen. So your guess is as good as mine
I
if
don't
it's a
know a
good
lot.
design.
I don't know about a lot about her either. I think it was fun. I think it was a good design. Like I think Vixen is another one of those. If you're not familiar with the hero, I mean, if you are very familiar with the hero, you may walk away from this not liking it. If you aren't, you probably walked away. It's like, oh, that's another RWBY character. It's not.
Like I again, this is like after my girlfriend told me about Jessica Cruz. I'm like, wait, listen, do you know of a character named Vixen in there? And she's like, who?
Apparently, Vixen's a part of
So
it, though.
yeah, like not to disrespect. Maybe if she was like in the old Justice League cartoon or something. Guys, it's been years since I've seen that. Great show. It's just been years since I've sat down and seen anything. I'm sorry if I forgot. I had other things going on. But hey, not to this, but that's the thing though. I can tell you, okay, maybe it shouldn't matter if I know her or not if she was cool in this, but honestly, Vixen was kind of like, we need another Justice League member. Put Vixen in there. She didn't feel like she contributed much.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much, like she's a
Uh,
little background. Like I liked the design. She seemed like she was fun, but it was she was fairly background. I say like her and Flash both were very background. Like Flash was
oh, Flash
practically not
wasn't
there
that
until
background.
the end.
He was apparently taken over by the bad guy, so that
Kilgore.
they yeah, who it trapped the Justice League in this universe, so that they, as teenagers, the emotions they repressed would hunt them. Their hormones will come back, and it will make them fight wars. And this plan is so fucking dumb that even Ruby calls them out on it.
Listen, I love that, there were comments going around here or there. It's like but Batman raises the question, why didn't you just turn us into babies then? Kilgore. That's because well, that's a great idea. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah.
you see, but as we agreed, Batman is not really Batman in this freaking movie. So, oops.
Batman hacked a computer. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's the only Batman thing he does. I will say, you know what? If I may compliment, teaming Batman up with Weiss is on paper a good idea. It
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
sucks that Batman doesn't really act like Batman.
Yeah. Again, like I think there's a lot of good stuff here. Jean and Jessica Cruz, like they have a lot of really great interactions. There's like seeing her,
Mhm.
like again, you have Jean, who was also like terrible with the symbiote stuff, and had to
Mhm.
learn to get into his powers, and her trying to learn how to do things in this world without her ring, right? And feeling very weak and isolated because of that, and John staying behind to help her out throughout. Again, some really great stuff there. Like I said before, Diana's, Wonder Woman's interactions with Blake and Yank. It's very quick, but
Yeah,
it's still good stuff. It's interesting. It's enjoyable. Again, there's
yeah.
a lot of
But
great
then, like,
ideas here, and I come back to this has like the general Ruby problem of it feels like they needed more with it, like
like a part two or some
not
shit.
just a
But
part two, more than that, really, but
mm. But then it's also like there's we have Nora and keep forgetting the other guy's name. The
Ren.
one with the black. Who?
Are you talking about Ren?
Yes, Ren.
Mm.
Thank you. So because we have Nora and Ren, and they're supposed to have like this rivalry with Cyborg. Wasn't buying it.
Of
The
it's like
it's like
they did this. it's kind of, yeah, this is another one that I would say was kind of meh. It was like, Nora, I'm my own woman, I can handle myself, and Ren and Cyborg trying to protect her a little bit and maybe fighting, and like, maybe Cyborg likes her, but he kind of doesn't, but it's just
Was he?
Ren being a
I
little
didn't get
jealous.
that.
Like, you can see
I
the
didn't.
Ren trying to be jealous of Cyborg thing. Like, that's what I got.
It went over
Like,
my
they
head.
literally had a thing of Cyborg and Nora holding hands, and they show a scene of Ren turning around going and then just continuing to fight Grim. Like,
So
that's
you see,
very
this is probably
obvious.
the moment where I don't care anymore, and I looked away from the screen for a second. But
Like, that's another
whatever.
thing that I would say was kind of meh about like, again, like the two characters I would say were the least, like, they were like, Cyborg at least felt like Cyborg, but it was still very meh as far as a thing for him went, and Batman is the same way. It's very meh story wise, very meh
And
character
again,
motivation
there's the
stuff
point
wise.
like where they all go to Beacon, and Superman kind of comes up with this plan of okay, we'll split up and stuff, and then one of the goes like, you don't get to decide over us, and it's like,
Yeah, that was Yang.
like, I don't get this something, because guess what happens later? They split up to cover more ground. So why add this useless argument of we are doing what we want if you're going to listen to his advice and split up anyway? It's like, and it felt like it just kept going without any real resolution. That they're just like, okay, I guess we're friends now, and then they say their goodbye. It's like, thank you, we'll see you later. All that shit, and it's like, I don't feel like any of those people are actually friends. Like, from what Team Ruby and Team Jennifer, they're fine. I can tell they're friends. I can tell the Justice League are friends. But if you told me there's any friendship between the two groups, like, besides Jean and Jessica and maybe Clark and Ruby, I wouldn't
Maybe
believe you.
Weiss and
It's like
Bruce, and maybe
Wes and
Blake,
Bruce,
Yang, and
maybe.
Diana.
But it didn't feel like they were friends. They're like, okay, we worked together. We argued a lot, but okay, I guess it's done. Bye. I didn't feel like there was friendship there. And
I
again, I bring this up because, listen, it's baffling to me that you can make Batman and the Ninja Turtles woke in a crossover, because they really put an effort on how they can make it woke, and the characters feel like the characters. The story makes sense from both aspects of the franchise. And when the movie ended, I felt like there was camaraderie between the two, but between the two groups, and I'm like, okay, I want to see them again. I want to see this happen again. This when this ends with that stupid ass cliffhanger, by the way, I'm like, oh great, it means I have to sit through another hour and a half of this. Okay,
I mean, it wasn't
whatever.
even an hour and a half. It was just an hour. Really, it was
No, it
less
was
than an hour.
no, it was an hour and a half.
No, it wasn't. This movie is 1 hour long. I watched it on Amazon. It is 1 hour, 3 minutes long. That's it.
Are you sure? Because
I'm literally looking at the time. It is 1 hour,
I
three
am
minutes
looking
long.
at my time too. Let me see this again. I know for a fact it was okay. Let's see. Yeah, an hour and 20 minutes. I'm not insane.
I mean, all I had was like an hour and like less than, it was closer to an hour. I did not have an hour and 20 minutes, an hour 30, because credits and all that stuff. Like, more closer to an hour 10 at best as far as actual
The point,
content
the
goes. But
point is,
either
okay,
way,
let's assume it's an average of an hour. And it's like, okay, I guess I have another hour to dedicate to see where this goes, and hopefully it can make me more forgiving to it. This didn't feel fulfilling.
I don't know. I disagree. To me, I walk away happy. I walk away fulfilled. You know what? Let me ask you this, right? Because
Mhm.
I'm getting ready to have a rant about the RWBY fandom and fandom in general in just a minute. We'll get there
Okay.
though. But anyways, before I do that, before I rant for a bit, before I old man rant,
Talk.
I remember you hadn't seen this movie, and neither did I. And you said, "Hey, let's cover it real quick since we're doing RWBY, right now. Might as well. It'd be fun." And
Yeah.
I remember telling you, "Yeah, like I'm into covering it. I've heard good things about the film. It seems everyone who's watched it seems to really enjoy it."
Mm-hmm.
So you went into this film like, before you watched the film, any other opinions you saw besides mine? Because I think you said you had seen other people saying they enjoyed it as well, right? And that's all you saw?
I if I mentioned before, I don't remember if I mentioned before, but as far as I'm aware, like because I literally watched this like 2 hours before we started recording. Okay, so I,
Same.
going into this, I was mostly like, I am not going to look anything up. I am not going to listen to any opinions. I'm just gonna go in as a casual fan of both sides.
Mm-hmm.
As a casual fan of both sides, I felt like the Ruby side was passable for a spin-off, and the Justice League side was just, for the most part, underwhelming. Some parts were good, but most of it was just ugh.
So see, I walked in this with on also very little expectations. Haven't looked much of anything up. I've seen a few images, but I had to sit through the motherfucking RWBY fandom and they did this same shit, right? They did this. Ice Queendom came out. Everyone lost their fucking minds when they saw Blake's redesign, right? When they saw the different
Oh,
design for
really?
Blake. Everyone lost their minds saying, fucking RT, ruining RWBY, Japan, anime, fucking awful. Why would they do this? Blake shouldn't have a tail and ears. Fuck off. It's like, my reaction was like, it's an image. That's all we have to go on. Maybe pull it back a bit and let's wait and see what happens. And lo and behold, they explain it that her design is literally, it's a dream world and it's Weiss's dream and how she sees people. And it's like, that's clever. That's smart. Why did we all get upset when all we had was a promo image to go on? Maybe we shouldn't do that again. And people are like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. It turned out good. We were wrong. It's like, cool. We're not going to do that again, right? Justice League movie comes out. We get one promo image. People see that Yang's wearing her Volume 1 to Volume 2 outfit, and she has her prosthetic now. But she's wearing her old outfit from earlier volumes, and everyone loses
Yeah.
their shit again. It's not canon. Why does she have that? How is this not canon? You're not lining up with canon. Canon. This is bad because it's not canon. Fuck RT. Fuck the writers. It's not canon. It's like, okay, all we have is a promo image again. Back the fuck up, okay? Let's chill
Yeah.
out, people. Because I come back to this hill every fucking time. And I'm going to continue to come back to this hill. And I'm probably going to die on this hill. And you know what? I'm all right with that.
Yeah. So.
Canon is cancer. Canon has been a cancer to writing, to character, story, and world creation and development. Canon has become a cancer to it and a cancer to discussion about these things. Because the second something doesn't quite line up with canon, it is therefore bad, it is no longer good, and we cannot even remotely partake in it, apparently, or talk about it
Yeah.
without. And even people who have good criticisms, come in with, have to preface something with, I understand it's not canon. Or they have to end with, yeah, it's also not canon. Like, why? I hate that fandom has created canon, and that fandom has deified, literally, in my opinion, deified canon so much that if you ever stray from canon help you. Not even God help you, canon help you, because canon is, it's just been deified to this point now. It pisses me off. It will continue to piss me off, and fuck anyone who says, anyone, even if you do it as a joke, you're fucking horrible. But if you're doing it seriously, if you genuinely mean the words, it's not canon, therefore bad, I'm gonna fucking slap a fool. I'm gonna fucking take you and I'm gonna shake you. And hopefully by the time I'm done shaking you, you're gonna turn out better. And if you don't, we're gonna shake you more. And hopefully you'll just never say it again. Because fuck you, I hate you. I hate that. I hate it. Just hate it. It's so bad. It pisses me off every time. I'm going to die on this hill. You understand me? I'm going to die
Yes.
on this fucking hill. Fight me.
Okay, one, take a breath, buddy.
No.
Breathe. But I do want to say that no, we can have an entire podcast, and actually, we did. We had an
Yes.
entire episode talking about it, and I'll say this: as someone who is not in the Ruby fandom, I'm only watching this show because we started watching this show because of this podcast and stuff. But I just want to say, I think it's kind of even Ruby or not. I think it's kind of petty to complain about canon in this case, considering this is crossing over with the Justice League and
But
how many
people
freaking versions of the Justice League are there and all.
but people did though, and it blew my mind that they were doing it to begin with because it's again, it's Ruby X Justice League. It's a crossover and you're complaining about Ruby canon. But
Like how many
still,
canons of the Justice League are there, people? And those can coexist. So Ruby multiple universes can exist too.
I mean, you
Just
say that though, and you're complaining about Batman not feeling like Batman.
okay. You know, I knew you were gonna point this out, but hear me out. Hear me out here.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
I don't look. There can be multiple universes, and there could be different interpretations of
Mm-hmm.
his
There
character.
can.
Okay, for the record, because I know you're going to bring this, so I might as well use it as an example. There are multiple versions of Sonic the Hedgehog throughout the media, and video game Sonic and movie Sonic are a bit different,
Mm-hmm.
and I get that. But the thing is that while both of them have some differences for them, there's a basic characteristic that's still there,
Yeah,
which is the cocky adventurer. Here, here, if you didn't say Bruce Wayne Batman, nothing would have given me the idea that it's Batman. His dilemma, as you called it, is not something Bruce Wayne or Batman would face.
that's fair.
The way he acts, the way he talks, the way they write him, it's not how Batman is. Like, and it's not like, again, you can have different versions of characters, but this is missing the basic characteristic which makes him that character. If you take that away, you could have told me it's anyone.
I do agree. I agree with you. I think Batman is definitely the weakest link here, and it feels very out of character for him to feel like, oh, I have powers now. I'm like one of you guys now. Yeah, I'm cool now. Yeah, I wasn't cool before. It's like, nah,
Yeah.
nah. It doesn't work. I have a
So
question though, because I would say you're more familiar with Batman than I am as far as character goes.
sure, let's go with it. I'm also one of the biggest criticizers of Batman, but okay, hit me.
What would you think they could have done for a dilemma for him?
In this movie.
Yes,
Well, the thing
since
is, Batman is usually just one of those
or
people
what do you
that.
think they could have done that would have made him feel more in character for you?
So I'm getting to it because I guess it's kind of correlates. But the thing is, Batman is one of those people that wants to know exactly what he's up against. He's analytical.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to know exactly how to face each threat. He's not. He can also improvise, of course, but he's one of the. And also, when I mentioned earlier, you beat the entire Justice League, with just your gadgets. He also requires a lot of prep time. His biggest accomplishments are relegated to the fact he had a lot of time to prepare and study the enemy and know exactly what an enemy's weakness would be, how to exploit it, or all of that stuff.
Yeah,
In a way, there are even analytics of Batman which present him as autistic because he needs everything to go according to a certain plan.
mm-hmm.
Whether you agree with it or not, different story. I'm just using this to bring up a point.
Yeah, sure.
Now, so now you have him in a completely new world, in a different body, and all we really get from it is not how am I using this to my advantage? How am I going to use this to actually maneuver this world? They kind of start with one, but then Weiss kind of tosses them down the stairs, and it's like, this is the guy who stole the card. This is Bruce, you fucking idiot. So, and you see him do computer stuff, you see him do science stuff, and he's also the one who Superman too, to an extent, but he is the one who figures out that someone is controlling the Flash, right?
Hmm.
So show me more. Show me him actually studying the semblance. Show him actually studying Remnant as a world and how it operates, and using that to his advantage. It wouldn't be more satisfying if the wings and like the bat sonar, as much as I think it's a bit so, if those came from him actually studying the world and coming to its conclusion himself,
Yeah,
because
but
that's Batman.
how do you get that in an hour 20 movie?
They're the writers. Figure it out. How do you suddenly get bat wings and sonar and shit?
I
I
think
don't
it's
know.
fine him being a faunus personally.
Yeah, or you could just but again, show me a bit of his brain. Show me a bit of something, because if you're just going to make him act like this, he's not Batman.
I don't
That's
know.
like missing
I
the
think
point.
I think the issue isn't that, oh, he needs more time. I think the issue was you got a little bit of him training with like him trying to get used to the bat wings and everything and training with that, and his bat vision, we'll call it. And you had him uh, you had a little bit with the computer thing. I think the issue was it felt like Weiss stole a bit more of that screen time, and Weiss was doing more with the computer thing than Batman was. And I think that was the
Uh,
issue. It should have been Batman
I
leading
don't
that
even
and not
don't even
Weiss.
think that. It felt like he just got those powers randomly, and it's like, oh, quirky,
I don't know.
quirky.
I
I
think
need
you're
to learn
focused
how
on
to
the
use.
powers. I don't think that's a problem.
I think it is, because that's the main thing that draws people to the character. He's the one that doesn't have powers.
I
He's
think
the one that.
that's what they should focus on, though. The fact that I think the focus there of him getting powers and having to learn to deal with that, and like having something that makes him a little bit more than that makes him more than human, that makes him, that gives him an edge that isn't just a gadget or a plan. I think that's more interesting. And I think there's a lot more they can do with that. I just think
Then remove the entire bullshit of I'm staying here because here I can
no,
do something
I agree.
better.
That was the wrong way to take it, I feel. I think
It's like, I'm not saying that this idea can't work. I'm just saying they messed up some biggies
I
when it comes
think
to establishing this guy as Batman.
I think their focus should have been on, oh shit, I have these things that I can use now. Because Batman's like, to me, he feels like one of those characters of, he's not exactly like, if he got given a power, it's not something that he cares about. It's something that, this is another tool. I'm going to use this. I don't really give a shit, right? It's very much like he makes use of things and people, whether they're important to him or not. If he can make use of it, he's going to. And sometimes it feels very cold and very harsh,
And
but that's just
the
how it is.
and the other thing is, the one thing that seems to be kind of, people would make fun of it, and definitely a lot have, I have, but what's the reason for him to be Batman? His parents died, right? And whatever, and they touch upon this in the comics and other adaptations and everything, that the loss of his parents is something that still haunts him, and it will continue to haunt him until the day he decides that he can't put on the mask anymore.
Yeah.
And
Your point?
and I point this out because a lot of people call them out on it, that this is the only thing that matters to him. Friends who helped him, other allies, people who want the same things as him, they don't matter when it comes to him doing his job as Batman.
Hmm.
And it's honestly, it's also one of the criticisms I have of him. He's just too much of an egotistical bastard to sometimes realize he needs help.
Hmm.
But so does this? So the fact that so what, I had a point. God damn
You've
it!
you've
What was
lost it somewhere in the in the mess.
yeah, but okay. I think what I wanted to say is that you have this guy who is doing everything to avenge his parents and make sure that criminals will pay and everything. And so, if he would get sudden bad powers, he would study it to figure out how he can use it back in Gotham. He won't leave this Gotham unprotected, because that means more people can kill can kill other people like his parents. Again, I come back to this.
Again, you've already
I
been
don't
over
mind
this.
if it's a
My
bit.
what I'm
I
saying
don't,
here, right,
just
is I
just
think
let me say
you've
this.
said
Just let me
this
say
though.
this. I don't mind that he's a bit out of if you make him a bit out of character. I am mad because you just took away the character and you just call him. It's a different Batman. It's not
You
the same Batman.
you said this. I'm sorry. You're
I
going in
know.
circles here. I'm sorry. You are, and I get it. It's what makes you upset. I think, and I agree with you. I think the focus shouldn't have been like, oh, maybe I stay here. I think the focus should have been on, him having these powers and him, focused on like, is there a way I can take this back with me? I think,
There you go.
and him having to decide, is it worth going back yet, or is it worth sticking around to find a way to take it back with me and use that? No, then maybe then he's still, and then like having to make that choice, right? I think maybe that would have been the better focus. I think your issue isn't that he has bat wings and bat vision, like legitimately now without a gadget. I
It's
think
the
the
way
issue
it
is
was
more,
handled.
yeah, it's the way that they put it forward. The way that, maybe I should stay here because I can do more good here. And it's like, this here isn't Gotham, right? And Gotham seems like a way more important place to Batman, potentially, depending on how you look at the character. Maybe, other people will take a much different look at the character, that it's not about Gotham, it's more about him just helping people, right? If you take that look at it, I
Uh,
think that's a fair look, but from my experience, I would disagree. From my experience with Batman as a character, maybe new stuff has some different things going on, right? I don't know enough
Obviously,
about like
there have
the
been
lore.
again. It's one of those things that has so many other interpretations, and again, not every, not like there's the entire thing that people bitch about the Snyderverse, where Batman kills there, even though he killed in other versions, and like that's I can give or take that honestly, but I think the one thing that's sort of agreed on, that he's doing this to avenge his parents. He's doing it to make sure no one is gonna die a meaningless death again. In that case, it did kind of transform more into it's a man trying to protect the city he loves rather than that. But it really depends on how you look at it, like you said. But either way, it doesn't work either way.
I don't know.
The
If
way
you
he's
take what you say, trying to prevent other people from losing their parents, that works really well with the world of Remnant, potentially.
yeah, but then you take into account you take him away from the city he grew up in and has allies and friends there to a whole other world he doesn't even know.
They got Superman. They'll be fine.
Superman is in Metropolis, but okay,
I mean, he's
whatever.
been in Gotham before. He'll be fine.
All right, okay. You know what? There's a Bat family,
Yeah, they
but
have
the thing
Robin. It'll be fine.
protecting that.
Everyone loves Robin.
Uh, Again, my point
I get you.
comes back
I
to
understand.
it's not the character.
I
It's
get you.
not how he's written.
I
And
definitely agree. Batman is the weakest link from the Justice League. He feels like the weakest part here, as far as the Justice League characters goes. After that, Flash and Vixen are there, but they feel very background.
yeah,
You
again,
get
Flash, the
nothing.
entire thing is that the villain took him over, and then he's like, "It was nice meeting you people. I guess. Sorry about the bad stuff. Bye."
I
And
think, like you say, the biggest issue here is you have the RWBY characters tending to be leading things a lot. And I think maybe that was the better choice. Maybe it wasn't, because I think people know Justice League characters, right? I feel like
of course they do. Like, there's not one person around who doesn't know who the Justice League is.
Justice League characters, again, they have way more reach, way more pull than RWBY does, right? RWBY feels, I would say,
Well,
smaller. Like, you're not going to know these
yeah.
characters as much. So I feel like they
Not to
gave the
discredit
RWBY.
Ruby or anything,
No,
but you need to but Ruby has, not to say that Ruby doesn't have an appeal, it does, but it's, let's say you walk around the street and ask a person, hey, do you know what Ruby is? Chances are they won't know what you're talking
listen,
about. But if you ask someone
for
who is the
where
Justice League is, they'll be like, yeah, Superman, Batman.
for
That
where
kind
I
of stuff.
live, I was wearing like a beanie that has like a ruby symbol on it. It has nothing that says ruby on it. It's just,
Yeah.
has like a symbol from ruby on it, right?
Yeah,
I've
a
had
logo.
yeah, a logo. I've worn that thing a lot. I got it from my mom for like birthday at one point. She was like, "Oh, you like this thing? Here, have fun." It's like, "Cool, thanks, mom. That was good. I enjoy it. It
Okay.
keeps me warm during the winter." I wear
Mhm.
that thing around all the time. I've
Yes.
had only ever one person acknowledge it, right? No, two people, and I've had that thing for years, and I've only ever had two people acknowledge, "Oh, Ruby, I know that thing." I'm like, "Yeah, cool. It's fun. I enjoy it." That's it. Just two
Mhm.
people.
Huh.
Justice League, I can go find Batman, Superman, all that shit anywhere around where I live. It's not hard. It's not
Mhm.
uncommon. I can find Batman symbols or Justice League logos or Superman logos or whatever the fuck you want
Yeah. And it's
anywhere.
also, when you look also that, because let's assume both franchises have been on video games, right?
A
So
little
like
bit.
Ruby, find me one Ruby game that got a physical release which wasn't limited.
I No, I think that was limited. So yeah, just Aerofells, but it was limited, and that's the only one.
Yeah, and then compare it to,
I think.
a Batman Arkham game or the Injustice games or something. Those are like big releases, and when if only one of them breaks, breaks release date, like some stores start selling it a bit early, then
I
there's gonna be a whole while of there's gonna be a whole hurrah about it.
back to my point though, right? Like yeah,
Yeah.
Justice League is bigger than Ruby. I
Mhm.
think maybe they made the wrong choice here. I feel like they did this based. I feel like the Ruby characters kind of tend to lead the show more, lead the movie more, right? In this instance, because people are going to be coming into this. They're probably going to be less familiar with Ruby, and we want to make them. We want to make sure they're familiar with Ruby by the end of this, or that they have an idea and understanding of these characters. And so the Ruby characters, I think, get more because like we can kind of let the Justice League take a bit more of a back seat because you
But
know them, you're
then,
aware of them, you're familiar with them. I think
yeah,
maybe that's what they went for.
I would agree with you, but I don't know. There's something seems a bit. If I get what you mean, and
Hmm.
maybe you're right, but then I'm also kind of raising an eyebrow that the Ruby characters get a bit more of a lead here. And it's again, it's the obviously the Ruby crew. It's the Ruby animation style. It's the Ruby, it's the Ruby cast
I mean,
members. Like,
it's a
no,
director from Ruby directing the movie, so
there you go. So I am not sure. I'm not. Maybe I'm just being cynical or something. But it also sounds like we created these characters. We got
I
this
mean, yeah,
project.
sure, there's going to be bias, right?
We
I
are
don't think you
gonna
can avoid it.
favor, like we're gonna favor our creations.
Which, I mean, I get it. That's fair. You're going to try not to, but there's always going to be that little bit of bias no matter what you do, right?
Actually, just kind of a funny thing because I saw someone complain about this a few months ago. That Smash Brothers, obviously.
Yes.
So you know how in the Smash Bros. Brawl there's the story mode, and people make fun. Of course, Kirby does all the important shit. Like it's Sakurai. He created Kirby. Of course, he wants to give him the stories.
I mean, it's
It's
fair.
the same. It's the same kind of thing.
No, that's fair. I get it, right? It's going to happen no matter what you do. And sometimes and sometimes you lean into this and have a lot of fun with it, and people just have to accept that. Or sometimes you try not to, and it turns out kind of like this did, where either you're gonna like it or you're not. I think there's enough stuff there from the Justice League that I'm okay with it, and there's enough stuff there from the Ruby part that like I really enjoyed it. Again,
This entire
I agree.
discussion.
There's some flaws there, but you know, I'm all right
Uh,
with that.
I'll tell you what, talking about this entire discussion did kind of, I mentioned this earlier, but I really think it's going to be one of those you either love it or hate it kind of movies. I can't really tell where you're going to land. But so honestly, considering it's just an
Looking
hour, it's not even like it's an hour and it's done. It won't take too much of your time. So it's like make your own review, make your own conclusions. We can
That's
talk
fair.
for hours about why you think it works and why I think it doesn't.
I mean, I again, right? I'm more into the Ruby side of things than the Justice League side of things, and if the Justice League characters felt more like Ruby characters, then yeah, I'm probably not going to care as much, right? I'm biased here, right? And
Yeah, and,
I
but at
think
the same
I'm not
time,
alone because looking at the general consensus from the Ruby fandom, I think most of them are the same way of,
and more
they
power to
didn't,
you.
and even getting into it, like again, I go back to the general consensus of the Ruby fandom when the comics were first announced. It was like, why? We don't want this. We don't care. And they walked away feeling meh. The movie comes out. They're like, none of us liked the comics, or barely any of us liked the comics. Those were meh. This is probably going to be even worse. Why? And the movie came out, and everyone's like, and most people within the Ruby fandom are like, that was good. I'm sure Justice League people will probably go into this, solely Justice League people. If they go into this, you might get some that like Ruby and are like, huh, I'm interested. I'm going to jump into this now. Probably more, more than likely, most of them are probably going to be like, that was a meh Justice League movie. I get it, right? I think
Yeah,
I,
and I think that's why I would say this movie kind of fails, because if you end up satisfying one of your audiences, then you didn't do good. And like if you didn't, if let's assume
let's,
I'm
let
not
me
sure
ask
what
you
the
this.
react. Actually, I saw a comment about this somewhere, because I think I saw one review on YouTube which enjoyed the movie,
Mm-hmm,
and I think the guy also said that he was more into. He still needs to catch up on some of the recent Ruby stuff, but he's overall a Ruby fan.
mm-hmm.
And there was a comment there which says it's great to see someone who actually knows and understands Ruby talk about this movie. And it's kind of like we talked about this not too long ago with the Mario movie, where like, yeah, it's great that you're a fan of this particular brand, but here you have another audience that you kind of need to keep its attention.
But it's
And
interesting
you
though
see what I mean?
because you liked the Mario movie, right? If I'm not mistaken,
I
like you
like
had
it. I
fun with
like
it.
that. I like that. Fine. Like I don't think it's a masterpiece by any means, but I'm like I enjoyed it. But I'm also aware that by practical movie making standards, it's flawed, very flawed.
That's fair. See, I would say, and again, maybe it's because I'm more biased. I like Ruby more than Mario. I would say I walk away from this film feeling like I had more fun than I did with the Mario film. I felt more
Yeah,
bored watching Mario than I did watching this film.
and that's the thing. I know Ruby is one of your favorite shows,
How did
which
you feel watching it? Like, in a general sense, right?
this.
Like, let me ask you this question.
Hmm.
Ignoring the fact that it's Justice League, ignoring the fact that it's Ruby, as a
Mhm.
movie, good or bad, or in between?
As like a movie with no personal knowledge of this,
Yeah.
meh, very meh.
See, I'm leaning towards fun. I'm leaning towards pretty good, pretty decent,
Like
pretty
no, like
pretty good.
it's fun, but again, I would say kind of like the Mario movie. It's fun, but if I'm talking about actual filmmaking things, and I'm talking now as a movie that I haven't seen Ruby. I don't know much about the Justice League. Okay,
Yeah,
from that point
yeah.
of view, then all of the semblance talk, what is semblance?
I mean,
All of the
fair.
others, what are who are these characters? Why should I care about them? You see what I mean?
That's fair. That is
So
fair. One other question I have for you as well. Sorry.
yeah,
You
sure.
know,
No, yeah, well, it's a discussion. Go ahead.
you've talked about one of your biggest problems with Ruby in general, right, has been character bloat, cast bloat, right? What did you
Mhm.
feel about this movie? Because this
This
is
was fine.
really because this is 14 characters, by the way.
I'll say this: it's 14 characters, but for one, for one in Ruby, it would get beyond 14 characters. Let's start with that. But two, I feel like because also a shorter running time overall, like because a season of Ruby can take up like let's say the 10 episodes. Each episode is about 20 minutes. You have 200 minutes of a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here here you have let's assume 75 minutes and you're done. So they had to split that time a bit more accordingly. And I think they balanced it overall well, especially because each because each group also kind of all the groups kind of meet each other by the end, and it feels a bit more like other, yeah, other movies. Like, let's take Avengers Infinity War for a second, that you have several groups doing something, and then everything reconvenes into one place, right?
Yeah,
So I felt it, in a movie it works a bit better than in a show.
that's fair. That's
So,
fair.
and also the most of the characters here are characters I actually knew and cared about, and not the ones that you just threw in a season and then you need to keep around for some reason.
Also fair. Well, do you think this would have been better as a show, or do you think it's fine as a movie? Or do you think you would have
I,
enjoyed this more as a show because maybe a show would have had more time to develop things?
how to say, because I kind of want to say, one of the biggest problem I have with this is the writing and some characterizations and stuff, and I'm not sure if having more screen times would necessarily fix that.
That's fair. Because
So
I'm of the
it's
same mind. I think I'm okay with it being a movie, and I would be interested in a show, but at the same time, I don't think I would want it. I think I would pass, and I think I would rather them focus on more RWBY related stuff, or like finishing RWBY, confirming Volume 10 for one, and finishing out RWBY, and then maybe looking at side story
I
shows or
think
whatever.
I confirm. I
They
think I
have not.
confirmed.
I've looked.
Oh,
I went
hmm.
back after we covered last episode. I was curious and I started looking around. As far as I'm aware, Volume 10 has not been officially confirmed, as far as I'm aware.
Uh,
Kind of sucks,
well,
but we'll see. Hopefully.
well, yeah. Here's hoping.
At,
So
for me at this point, I think, if I want more RWBY Justice League stuff, fan fiction, and, AO3, it's all out there. I can find it. I
yeah,
guarantee you there already exists. I would not be surprised. Like,
mhm,
like
yeah.
Green Lantern and John and Jessica Cruz and John, like all that. I'm sure it already exists, or just them interacting
Sure.
more and doing stuff. Would not be
Yeah.
surprised.
Well then, that being said, I don't have much else to add to this. I think
You
I said
disliked
everything.
it, and I liked it.
Yeah, that's the general idea. So, but honestly, I do hope it this I be considering how we were totally opposite on this one, and I know I do want to see what kind of discussion this can generate in both fandoms.
That's fair.
And maybe I'll look it up later when I have the mental capacity for it. So, anything else to say before we wrap this up?
Oh, it was an okay movie at the Berkcast review. It was okay. Since both of us are like on opposite sides here, it was okay. That's what you get from us.
It was somewhere in the middle. Rented and my conclusions.
I mean,
Woo!
personally, Wolf really liked it, but general consensus, it's okay. You might have
So,
fun with it.
considering this is a RWBY episode, you want to lead us out?
Yeah, so that's all from us here at the Outcast. Not going to mess it up. If you wish to find us, you can find us on Twitter at Berkcast with a capital B, capital C, or you can find us on Tumblr at Berkcast Team, no capital B, no capital C. And with that said, I was your host Wolf, and I was joined by
HC, who also reminds you that you can tell us all about it in the comment section below.
I was getting there. With that said, we hope to see you next time, and we hope you enjoyed.
Take care.
Bye bye.